welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. Hope you had a good week for everyone. I hope you had a good week. Um, I'm about to say it's last week, but I have to be very clear that I'm recording this before the weekend to have it released on Monday, and so the week is not over. At least at the time of recording. Um, and so far it's been a busy week. So far it's been a busy week. Obviously, we had I was lucky enough to spend the I want to say the eve of Rosh Hashanah with some wonderful people. Then the first day, I was with some other wonderful people, and you know that plus just running errands and doing things um, means the week was busy. Was nice busy. Was good busy. Although I was a bit ill on. I have some like stomach problems. Um, it's fine, and I understand why. It's not the first time when this is happening, but now at least on the bright side, I now I figured out what the problem is, and I'm going through addressing it as we speak. But yeah, all in all, celebration, then a bit of work. Well, quite a bit of work, and then no feeling great means that I've been going around, and also university. I've started my second year in university this week as well, and it's quite exciting. I'm very happy. Very tired. I'm so tired as even as we as I record this, but think it's for the best. I'm looking forward to having a break sometime next week. Not sure when yet, but I'm looking forward to a break. However, for now, it's just pushing through, and it's good because there is a lot to get done. There is a lot going on. Don't forget about the 10th of October show in London for anyone who wants to participate, who wants to come and watch. It's going to be a great one. I'm splitting an hour with a brilliant comedian, lovely person, and a brilliant comic, Vlad Ilic, and still going through a couple more major holidays from the high holiday season. Um, I forgot what else I was about to say, and that's fine because I think I've said enough of it as an introduction or as a catch up. Actually, I feel like this is the catch up bit, and now to talking about introductions, it's hard to introduce the next guest because the he's an incredible person and great writer and what a story. What a story does he have? And you'll get to hear some of it, during our conversation. But basically, this week's guest is a incredible writer. Um, Israeli writer Yishay. He told me I can call him Ishi. By the way, he said that friends can call him Ishi, and I feel lucky enough to have gotten the go ahead from him to call him Ishi. Basically, Yishay Ron is a guest for this week's episode, and we talk about his book that has been already wildly celebrated. Is that the word? Celebrated or it's got a lot of I should know better. You gotta, we got, I got a an incredible writer on, and I can't find my words. That's a bit embarrassing. But look, he's had wonderful feedback from his book. I'm a few chapters in myself, and it's incredible. You know, it's a great book. The book is called Dog, and basically the reason why I bring it up is because although again the book has been out for a while and it was out in Hebrew. However, on the 1st of October is going to be officially launched in English. And I've got Ishi to talk about the book a little bit, talk about himself a little bit. He's got a wonderful story, and we got to chat about that. We got to chat about what is next, and also this is not his only published book, by the way. So for anyone who wants to support him and support his work, check out his full library. Is that the right word? I think so. Look, check out um, his socials as well, which I was gonna say they are going to be in the same as usual. Basically, it's gonna be in the summary of this episode. You can find links to his socials and get a book. It's a brilliant book, and I feel like that's pretty much it from me. Now, bear in mind, it's going to be quite a heavy, or we are going to address quite a few heavy topics during our conversation, and obviously, it's all got to do with our own, journeys with mental health. Um, so be mindful of that, and ultimately enjoy the conversation, and yeah, get a book. You know, that's it. That's it from me. You're gonna hear me again, hear from me again before we wrap it up for this week. But for now, enjoy this brilliant episode with um, wonderful person and brilliant writer, Yishay Ron. Yishai, how's it going? How are you?
Uh, Today I'm good. Yesterday I was not so well, but I'm living a day by day. When you are suffering from PTSD, it's always like a roulette. You don't know how you will wake up, and you don't know how will your night will be. But talking with you now, it's like it's cheerful, and I feel nice.
That's
So
good, and
nice to
I'm
meet you.
lovely to meet you too. And I'm glad. I'm happy to hear that, because also I've been in a pretty similar position. I've been running around for the last week or so, and I didn't have time to think about many things, and now to actually, I was so looking forward to our conversation, and then to like actually like do it now. I'm a bit like, oh, I'm at peace. I'm calm. I can just like chat with someone. It's literally like catching up with a friend or something. And you're like, oh, I can forget about everything else, and we're
Yes,
just gonna chat
when
for a
you
bit, and that.
concentrate in our conversation, it's peaceful. It quiets the mind. So nice to meet you, and I thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast. It's really honor to share my story and the book that is my book, Dog, which will be published in New York in the 1st of October, which is getting close. I'm getting
So close.
excited about it, yeah. Uh, and that's it. And if you want to lead with questions, you let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Again, first off, before we dive into the big questions, is, if you were to, again, if you were to introduce yourself to somebody, how would
Hmm.
you introduce yourself? Who are you? Basically, I love
So,
to ask this question.
yeah.
But yeah, who is Yishay?
Okay. So first of all, my friends call me Ishi. So you
Ichi.
can call me Ishi.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
I'm an Israeli author. I'm 52, almost 3 years old. I live in Kfar Saba, which is not far from Tel Aviv in Israel. I'm married to my beloved wife, uh, amazing wife, for almost 27 years now.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, and it's actually it can be a different podcast about love because we met and after like 2 weeks we decided to get married. And
That's amazing.
we are those couples that you either say, wow, how beautiful, or you're like, disgusting, so kitschy after so many years. We work together and we live together 24/7, meaning we really, we have one car, one key to the house. She doesn't, we do not leave each other. So it's a whole different story than the story we are talking about. But and I have three wonderful sons. That's the older one, Eli. Iyali is the middle one, and the smallest one, which is already 20. His name is Roy. So I was in a special forces in the army, and over the years, I was suffering from PTSD manifestations like nightmares at night and panic attacks and anxiety attacks. But I didn't relate to it as a PTSD. Because you know probably from your show that PTSD, like many other psychiatric problems, let's say, or illness, or people feel ashamed, especially when they are males. Like men are, we are not only more stupid, but we are also we are also very ashamed of weakness. And for a soldier, someone who used to be in a special unit in the army, to admit that he came out with a PTSD, it's very, like, it's unthinkable for an Israeli macho man, blah blah blah. So for years, I didn't admit it to myself, and actually, I was covering it by using drugs and alcohol for many many years, and so when my wife's mom wasn't very happy of my connection with her daughter, she was right. I was mostly stoned and drunk,
But
for many, many years. But now she loves me and I love her. So that's it. So after many, many, many years of using drugs, and later I understood that drugs, it's not really a good choice when you have kids and my business. Then I changed it to psychiatric treatment. Still, I haven't admitted to myself that it's a PTSD from the army. I used to take, I was medicated on, I think it's in English, Lexpro, like Cipralex. It's
okay.
yeah, it's like anti-anxiety.
Yes.
But I used everything. I was on Sarqual, which is quantopine in English, and I on benzos, and the all deal. And then in the COVID, when the COVID started, it was very pressing. I had a reunion with my team after many, many years. And I met also a friend of mine in the team, which in an operation I shot him by accident. And probably everything blew up. And after we did this reunion, I had a mental breakdown, which for the first time I understood that what I'm feeling and what I'm having is a PTSD connected to my service in the army. So basically, it was a long introduction, but this is me.
Wow, that's that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack, and I think it's like one of the things that stood with me is kind of like the um, recognizing it and being like, yeah, I've there is something going on. I've got and I think as well I can imagine that I think living with PTSD. Although I don't know if you knew, but it just came in my head now. Apparently, there are quite a few, on the spectrum between like borderline personality disorder and PTSD. Are quite a few. Basically, we share a few of the traits,
Manifestations,
I
yeah.
guess. Yeah, we shared a few of the traits, and I was like, oh, but again, I haven't spoken with. I know some people that one of a person that's very important to me who's got CPTSD as well, and I know it's not easy to live with, but I can imagine again like living a life where you're like, oh God, and also this is so uncommon. How do you? It's almost like you have to take off that sort of shield that you've got to.
Unfortunately, I think that in Israel it's much more common than in other countries because the pressure here is so you know crazy. Like we say that each day in Israel it's like 10 years in Switzerland. It's uh, the things that happened here, they can
Yeah,
put a lot of people in PTSD. But of course, there are many PTSDs from the war, and when I relate to PTSD, and it's something that I think it's very important to say. First of all, like what we said, the shame kills. If you are ashamed of what you have, you will not treat it. And if you don't treat it, you might get to a point that you want to end your life.
yeah,
So, it's like I usually compare it to colon cancer. Many people don't want something up there, but because they feel ashamed, and then they don't find the colon cancer and they die. And I think for a lot of mental illness, shame is one of the things that finally kills a lot of people because if they're not ashamed and they want to seek medication and help, they can live their life more or less. Um, in most cases, they're medicated, they can live a stable life. But if they are ashamed and they do not take care of their illness and they don't admit it to themselves, then it might be fatal and it's really bad. Um, So yeah, PTSD, like all the other mental illness, is not easy. Of course, there's a all range, of and I'm considered quite severe. Like I got 50% disabled because of it. Which is a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
How okay. Let's start with the question because
Yeah.
I'm
Sure.
dying to know more. Then you you wrote a book which has been very successful in Hebrew, and it's been very popular.
Yes.
But sorry, go on.
No, no. You go on with the question.
Oh,
Sorry.
basically the question was, one, what made you write the book? And I've I've seen obviously like the the reviews of the book as well, is that it's a very powerful book. How much of it is, it's like, because it's a novel, right? So it's,
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, I'm curious how much of it is it's reality, how, yeah, or like to what extent.
Okay, so I will divide your question to two and remind me about the second
Of
part. If I
course,
don't
of course,
remember the medication, our memory is not that.
no problem.
Okay, so first of all, about writing the book, it's quite a strange thing because the author in me, it's not the first book that I write. Before this, I wrote many books, which not all of them were published yet. But in Israel, before this, I had a grown-up novel and I had two children books, one of which was a very successful children play. And when I wrote Dog, the author in me knew about the PTSD before I knew it. Okay, so there's two-person in me. One is the author, which was not ashamed and admitted that he had PTSD, and one is Ishi, which for many years denied that he is PTSD. So actually, I wrote Dog before I knew I'm PTSD, which is quite amazing and strange. Like any other author, I think if you want to write a good book, you have to be not only a talented writer, and you don't need only a good idea or a good story. You also have to be a surgeon to take a scalpel, take out your art, and put it to the readers. And I think that because I was PTSD, I knew how to do it perfectly. Like, I mean, the book was written a few years before I was diagnosed, but when I had this mental breakdown, the only one of the things that helped me was working on the book. Okay, so I took the book as the draft, and then I start working on it because when you wake up, you're not always can work. Working is not very easy. So I woke up and I knew that I'm waking up to work on my book, and it gave me reasons to wake up. And actually, I gotten so many feedbacks from, in Israel, it became like a cult book, meaning many people with PTSD, not only, by the way, soldiers with PTSD, sometimes it's people with, sexual PTSD, we can have PTSD from violent, many kind of violence, sexual violence, car accidents. You know, my wife and I, after we got married, we had a severe car accident, which we maybe that's the only thing that I can think of if I want to believe in God that saved us, because it was like it was a total loss. The car was a wreck, and we both came out pretty fine. Like I broke my stereo, and my wife, she couldn't have me drive because I was driving, and it wasn't
Yeah.
my fault. It was someone else's fault, the car accident. But because I was the driver, Ellie, my wife's name is Eleanor. Ellie couldn't have me drive. She couldn't get in a car with me if I'm driving for more than 10 years. Like, it's crazy, and it was definitely a
Yeah.
PTSD. It, like, she couldn't, all her, if she came into the car and I was driving, she could start crying, and her body was clenching, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so PTSD is very, it can happen. That's why I think my book talks to so many people, because it's not about politics. You know, now Gaza and Israel war, people are blaming everyone, and Israel is secluded from the world, and they say genocide. I'm not going into it because I'm not a politician, and politics is not my thing. Okay, and there's opinion for there and for there, and for me, what is important is to say, and this is, by the way, the book is also has no political opinion. Okay, Dog is talking about the toll of war, and the toll of war is about both sides. Okay, I'm sure that there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that have PTSD now because of the war, and I'm sure there are hundreds of thousands of Israelis that are feeling the same way, that are that got hurt from the war and before. So when I'm talking about PTSD in my book, it's about PTSD. Okay, Geller, the protagonist of my book, is is a veteran like I was, and he suddenly his life is perfect. He returns from Japan. He had a beautiful girlfriend. He's riding a motorcycle. He's starting to learn in the university, and suddenly his world collapsed. Okay, because suddenly what happened in Gaza, from his perspective, fall on his head one day as a panic attack, and he start using drugs, okay, like me, like what I did. Of course, in the book, everything is more extreme. If I was stoned and drunk, so Geller, my protagonist in the book, is using heroin, and he find himself homeless, which is, by the way, not so unique. You know, all over the world,
Yeah.
veterans from, you know, you can find them everywhere, in Russia, in Ukraine, in Vietnam, in the US. Every time there's a war, there's veterans that find themselves as homeless on the street
Yeah.
because they don't exactly accept or acknowledge their illness, or their so they find themselves using drugs, and using alcohol, and they can easily find themselves on the street. So this is the similarity between my protagonist Geller in the book to my experience is very similar. and but of course it's not my story, and of course it's not this, and it's this story is not only my story, it's many people's stories, okay, people that were hurt from many other kind of violence or existential incidents that were hurting their life, or were that they had to, that they were risking their life, or this is what you feel when you have a PTSD. You feel that your life is at risk, and then these incidents return and return again and again during your everyday life.
Right. Um, I was wondering as you were speaking, and I was quite curious about the idea of again now before we continue, and I ask you a little more about the book. I want to ask you something uh, about yourself, because you mentioned that you started right. You obviously you wrote this before you had a diagnosis, but you're obviously struggling with the symptoms already. Did you notice that did the writing of the book helped you in any way to understand like your own thoughts better and what you were going through, or was it pretty much the same as or did you feel basically the same as you felt before?
I think that while I was writing the book, I was digging into myself unconsciously. Um I was not very connected. I wasn't connected at all to my symptoms, meaning until a few years ago, where the symptoms became a meltdown, a nerve breakdown. I was feeling the symptoms. I was more or less balanced, meaning at first I was self medicated by drugs and alcohol, so I blocked my feelings and my memories. And then later I was medicated by psychiatric medication, which again helped me to be stabilized and control if it's panic attacks or anxiety or depressions. So when I did write the dog back then, I wasn't really connected to my symptoms. I was connected to my subconscious. But I can tell you that when I did have the mental breakdown, which was then I couldn't ignore already my situation, my mental situation, and my PTSD, then dog was a really lifesaver. Meaning, then I clinged to my book, and I saw in it a way to understand PTSD myself. And then also because it became like a cult book, and I had so many people contact me, uh, warriors from like veterans from the army, parents of veterans, which they diagnosed their sons to have a PTSD, while the sons ignore it and couldn't and were ashamed in it. They contact me again to advise and to say that they read the book and to know what to do. So suddenly I felt that it's funny, people came to get signatures on the book, and my wife said, "Listen, Ishi, it sometimes I feel like it's a shiva, for the Jews. When somebody's died and many people are coming to visit him." So it was like really a time that many people came to the house and told us the story and want to hear me. And from one point of view, it was very fulfilling and gave me a lot of force to deal with what I'm feeling, but also to know that I can help in something for other people. And in another point, it felt like it's too much, getting to put on your shoulders so many stories, which art stories that it was not easy, and I was glad that at some point I told my publisher, listen, let's take a freeze and start to. I cannot handle anymore so many people coming here, and but the book had a long way. So in Israel, it was a bestseller and got to the Sapir Prize long list, which was it's like the best. It's the most prestigious prize, literary prize in Israel. And then it was a good opportunity for me to find like an amazing translator, Yarden Grispan, which is one of the five best translators from Hebrew to English in the world, and she did an amazing work. And that helped me find the publisher in New York, and I'm very excited. In the 1st of October, the book would be published.
I want to ask you, actually, one of the things before I ask the question, one of the things is that actually I was wondering as you were speaking about the, idea of having people open up about their own, mental health struggles and about their own PTSD, about the struggles of, because I think even when I do the podcast, for example, I don't only refer to people who live with like borderline personality disorder. I always use, people who are impacted by it, because I think that, we impact everybody in our lives, or at least the people that are close to us as well. So they are also, a part of this. They are also, again, involved to an extent, right? And what I was wondering about, and again, you kind of like, which I absolutely loved, because it's almost like you read my mind and you addressed it, was, you know, obviously PTSD is not something like your own PTSD is not something too easy to live with. But then
Mm-hmm.
to hear all these stories from other people, it must get like at one point you must be like, whoa, this is a lot, because
Yeah,
it's not easy. Like you're kind of like you're not only learning about people, you're learning kind of like almost the sometimes the toughest things and the deepest secrets almost
I can
that
ask you
someone
the same
has.
question when you have such a podcast and you interview probably many people with mental difficulties. You kind of take it on your shoulder as well,
I'd say, you know what? Luckily, I think what I've learned from doing the podcast is that I can sympathize with people a lot, but ultimately, I also feel like I've learned which I think sometimes it's a harsh reality, but it's the reality that it's not for me to fix. Like I can't do all the work for anybody. I can't, even if like I feel like it's not fair for me or the other person to take someone's emotions and almost put it on me. So I guess yeah, it was basically it was harder at the beginning. I think when I started doing the podcast, it was quite hard. But the thing is, which I'm actually quite curious to know about your experience with the PTSD. But basically, the BPD process of like getting treatment is by doing group therapy. So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, you are surrounded by other people who have also, who are going to share some of the stories that they've gone through, and some of them are very powerful. So I think that was quite a nice head start for me, because I kind of, I was basically like for 6 months, I would check in a hospital one day a week, and I would just spend the whole day there in treatment. And it was with almost, I think, like 15 like-minded, I like to say like-minded, but basically we have the same diagnosis. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
best sort of like-mindedness that you want, but yeah, after we spend the day together, it's kind of like, you know it's easier because you've already, and again, as a part of this therapy and a part of the treatment, our the doctors who are in charge, or like who are helping us, they taught me that as well. They were like, hey, look, you have to understand that, again, if when someone shares a story, it's their story, it's their journey. You can sympathize, and you should sympathize, but as hard, or even sometimes as joyful as things are, because I think that's another problem. Sometimes I get overly excited about things, is that it's not for you. Again, it's kind of like as if you're a kid, and it's like, take 5 minutes, and then you have to bring it back to, okay, now I'm back to kind of like my life. I'm back to focusing on whatever I've got to do to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I think that some people also in their personality they are more they can observe more stories from others than PTSD is a mental situation which is very is handled very much by triggers. Okay,
Yeah.
so unlike other mental uh, illness, I think that PTSD is more managed by triggers. So, like uh, if you were under a bombing, then balloons and fireworks and big noise can trigger you. If you were almost lynched, so a big crowd would
Yeah.
trigger you. So I think that why this is the reason why when you feel when you're suffering from PTSD, sometimes even hearing about stuff which reminds you, it can act as triggers. That's why, for in my personal life, for instance, sometimes I trying not to, or most times I'm trying not to be connected to the news.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, of course, you cannot run away from it because it's all over the social and the
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook, and you cannot live in a cave. But I'm trying not to get the news to my face. To that's it. I don't remember where we were, but I think
Oh, basically, now I was just listening to you, and now I wanted to ask you: Did you have you always considered translating the book to English, or did that happen because of how well received it was in
I'm
Israel?
a I'm a person which I have visions. Okay, Like my vision was, I'm sure that as an artist, you know what I'm talking about. As a comedian, you have a vision of where you want to see yourself
Of
in a
course.
few years, and
Yeah.
as an author, as someone who's writing from when I was a child, and I wrote already like 10 novels and many, many kids, books for kids. Uh, I had my vision, okay, because actually I have Ellie, my wife, and I have a business of baby products, okay? This is how we make our living. It's a brand we design, we manufacture it in China and in Turkey, and we are doing it for many, many years. So, as I have a vision for my business, I always had a vision of what I want to be, what I want to see, where I want to see my books. And when I was concentrating on raising my kids and raising my business, and I couldn't handle putting my energy in both writing and publication. Okay, because either you, for me, you know, it was too much. I had my PTSD, I had a business, I had a family, I had kids. I had to go over to go to China to the factories, and sometimes I got panic attacks there. It was very complicated. So, and I enjoyed writing so much. So, you know, I put all my energy in writing, but I always had it in my mind where I want to see myself as an author. And when I had this breakdown, and I suddenly understood that I more likely will be concentrating on my art rather than on my business in the next few years, then I started to understand that actually, from my PTSD and from my bad mental situation, I can grow up something beautiful. Okay, people say that there is no total good and total bad, that our life is combined of moments which are happy, and many moments that we are not happy, or that we deal with problems. So when I look back now on my breakdown, and what I did with dog, I understand that suddenly maybe that was all due to become, meaning dog actually opened for me the international gate for my books. And actually now I closed up a new book with my publisher that would be published firstly in English before it will even came out. It will come up in. It will first be published in English rather than Hebrew, which is kind of strange and unique, but also beautiful in my eyes. You know,
Yeah.
it symbolized that. I'm becoming an international author, like my vision, or like what I dream of, you know, as someone who reads a lot. Since I was a kid, I'm like reading everything. I read Israeli author, but I also read everything, like English speaking author in the UK or in the US, and Japanese, and I love French authors. So I read everything and a lot. So all the time I had the vision of how will it be, or to be an international author and reach many readers which couldn't have read my story, my words, my sentences unless I translate them to English. And I'm lucky to have also Yarden, which she's amazing translator. You know, taking your story, your words, and put them in a keeping your voice. It's an art, no less difficult than writing it. You know, writing the book. So that's why I think that in Hebrew we have such a saying that from bad became the good. So I feel sometimes that from my PTSD, maybe the international author came up. You know, it's
Yeah.
also something nice to think of it.
No, definitely. I mean, that's the thing. I was like, oh, that's a beautiful way to, to see it. It's kind of like, you're pretty much, dealing the cards that you're playing with the cards that you've been dealt, and so far it looks like you're doing a pretty good job with it. I know you've mentioned Yarden Greenspan a couple of times, the translator. And actually, one of the things that came into my head was how how because obviously you talked about like how it's an art form to keep someone's words even if you transfer them to a different language. But you know, is it much of a difference between like how did you actually feel to see it from Hebrew to English?
I read it in English, and I'm like, wow. This is how I felt. Because from one point of view, one perspective, it was my story, the same book, same words, same plot, same thought of the protagonist and the other characters. But from the other end, suddenly you read it as if, you read an English book of someone else's. It gives you a distance between your work and yourself, and then you, for the first time, maybe. I mean, it's something that happens to many authors, even when they just see their book in their language. You know, when you publish a book, you suddenly see the product. Okay, the book is a product or a art, an art, a creation of art, which suddenly is away from what you had. Okay, you had it in your mind, you wrote it, and then people started to work on it, and your editor worked on it with you, and it became something a little else than what it was when you just had the story in your mind. So I think having it in English gives you another layer of distance, and I think it's amazing. Dog is was bought also by acclaimed director Ron Riklis, which is a very famous director in Israel, which made a lot of amazing movies. His last movie was Reading Lolita in Tehran, which now was all over Europe. Uh, so he bought the rights to make a movie out of a dog. And I'm thinking to myself that seeing it as a movie would give another layer of distance from my own story. I think it's beautiful to see your art in a way that you couldn't see it before, you know.
I mean, with this, because I was going to actually ask you about the book being adapted into a movie. Um, what's that? Because again, like that must be that's another level. You're going, like you're writing. you write in Hebrew. You're an Israeli writer. Then now you're international, and then the book gets adapted into a film. Um, my question was how does it feel from your end? And it's kind of like, in the respects of, do you feel very, or even when perhaps when you started working with Yardin, and now, also, sorry, two questions, a question in a question. It's how
Mhm.
involved are you in the movie? And the second question, and that's the first question, how involved are you in the movie? And the second bit was, um, how did you feel, and how do you feel now when you see your work kind of like being shaped up for different purposes, again, like going from Hebrew to English, and now going from text to film? Do because I'm thinking kind of like the sort of like the nurturing parent who doesn't you have your baby, and now it's kind of like your baby is growing, and how does that make you feel?
A very, very proud parent. It's like I think it's something that every author wants and dreams of, and seeing my book in English, and hopefully it will be translated to other languages also. Uh, it's amazing. It's amazing feeling that other people in other languages can read you, and today the world is global, and as we consume McDonald's everywhere, or Coke, or any other brand, uh, you know, good books are being read internationally, and I think it's a dream that every author has, and it's amazing. And I think the same, and even more when you look at it as something that will be adapted to a movie. You just feel proud and very excited. And Your first question was how much I'm involved. So Eran was reading the book and was interested immediately on adopting it to a movie. At first, I gave him the rights for to scoop around and see if it's good. But then, if it's good for him, then he actually got the first financed for to make a movie is much longer process than taking making a book. It can take you sometimes 10 years. So he first scooped around for the first budget to make the script, and when he got that, he actually bought the right. And we are in connections. He haven't started, I think, actually to work on it physically, because his movie came out in the last few months, a movie that he was working on for 10 years. It's considered a masterpiece. Reading Lolita in Tehran, it's based on a very successful novel. So he was going around the globes, in Cannes and in other, and this movie is now showing in Europe and in Israel. So we were talking about it to have a meeting after things will get a little more stable for him, and I think it will happen very soon. And then I will see whatever. I mean, I'm not going to interfere unless I'm wanted. Okay, that's for sure. I mean, if Eran will have questions for me or want me to help in writing, I will. But I think So everyone should know what they're good at, okay? And I'm not a director and not a producer, so it was the same with my children book when it was made to a play. It was purchased by children play theater, and they took the director and did the screenplay. And when I came to see it, it was, wow. So identical to the book, but also not exactly, and it was very amazing to see. So yeah, I will. We will see about the movie. It's a long process. I'm now I become very busy internationally with author events and podcasts, and I, but my head is already on the next book, which will be published in New York probably in June 26th. So uh, it's very exciting.
That's super exciting, yeah. And oh god, I was going to actually ask you a question going back to the book a little bit, because the I don't know if I can give it away, but if not, you tell me and then I cut it. But you know the story is actually in the book. It's from the perspective of the dog.
Yeah, some of it, half of it, yes.
I'm quite curious. Actually, I don't think that's even a question. That's just a point or like something. Oh, that's just sorry. Those are my golf clubs. Um, the point or like the thing that I want to say was that I'm quite like excited to see what would that be like on the screen.
Me too. I'm
That
very
would be
excited. So
that would
I'm
be pretty
also,
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm also excited to see what there's many options how to do it, and that's why I will probably be surprised as well. I'm counting 100% on Eran Riklis, which is an amazing producer and a director. So, but you were talking about Dog, and the book is called Dog because Dog is he has there are two major characters. Okay, two protagonists in the book. One is the dog, and the other one is Geller. But both of them are actually like the same person, like Anubis, like the Egyptians god, which is
Right.
part dog and part human. Uh, Dog symbolize, first of all, dog itself in the book, he suffers from PTSD as well, okay? And
Yeah.
he gets to the same place as Geller, the same living on the street, coming to the same wreck of a house where they're living, where the homeless living. So basically, dog is symbolized the Geller, symbolized our PTSD, and it takes a lot on his shoulder from the story because I don't want to ruin the surprise in the book. And I think that when people read it, usually at the end, they're like, wow, there's a big surprise in the end. And I think that taking dog is part of Geller's memory, okay? Geller, the Israeli soldier, the veteran, he tried to forget what happened in Gaza. And he tried to forget the stuff he did and the things that he saw during the one of the operation in Gaza, because Dog was written before the war, the current war, and before the 7th of October. So it was he was participating in Operation Pillars of Defense, and he was seeing his soldiers burned up out in from this armored vehicle. And he also remembered the Palestinians that were, and some of them innocent, that were killed. But it did to him nothing. Why? Because the only thing he remember is the dog. Okay? Not the same dog that came to him, but the dog from Gaza, which was not Hamas, and he wasn't Israeli dog. He was just a dog. Okay, like all of us are just human beings and people. And the thing he remembers that is more horrified for him as a person than all the people he killed and all the people and all his friends that got killed as this one innocent dog that he thinks that his friend shot during this operation in Gaza. So dog has a lot of heavy weight on his lean shoulders, and he is very unique protagonist in the book. I mean, and this is why he got the honor to be used as the name of the book also, dog.
Well, this is really again. I feel like if anyone's listening to this and they haven't already gone to check out the link in the bio to get the book, then I think this is what must have hooked them, because it's cool. It sounds great, and it's like,
I can tell you that most people tell me that when the minute they start, there's two kind of readers for dog. One kind is like takes it by small amounts and tell me, listen, Ishi, it's too hard, too sad, too difficult, too overwhelming to read it in like one shot. So I take it in small portions and read 2 pages, 3 pages a day. And another kind of a reader is the one that tell me, listen, I start reading it and I couldn't take the book off my hand and I finished it in one day. Usually this is what happened. So I will try to be modest but I will say you will love it. I will be modest and say no, but no. I'm as a writer. If there is no one to testify for you, you have to testify for yourself. And I really. Not only I recommend for people to read it because they can learn many things about PTSD and about drug addicts and about homeless people, which later, we all meet them in the intersections and we all see them in the streets, and none of us really knows where those people came from. Okay, if maybe they were teachers, or maybe they were businessmen, or maybe they were I don't know, children that came from wreck houses and became prostitutes, or became, you know, we just meet those people, and most of us are trying to go away from them, keeping our distance, just keep driving. And I think this book should teach us also what is compassion for weak people in our society, and for drug addicts, which is a disease. It's not only like an illegal thing to do. It's a disease that people try to deal with their life, and sometimes they get to be drug addicts because of it. So I think reading dog would give you a perspective about those important issues and about how important it is not to be silenced and to do what you are doing, giving the platform for people that are suffering to hear their voices. And of course, I think also I would love to hear from your audience and from people that will read dog. They can follow me on my social and they can connect with me. I'm usually doing the best that I can to reply everyone. Um, and that's also nice to hear from people.
Well, two things, because I think you were saying before that when you don't have someone to vouch for you, you're kind of like you're gonna do your own, but that's not the case for you though, because you've received support from, like, you've got some amazing reviews, and also you received support from some of the best, or like the major authors in Israel. And again, I think some of the reviews are from America as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some are
So
American authors too.
so you see, it's not like I actually think that there you were too humble, if I'm being honest. You know.
Yes. One
But
second.
yeah,
One
sure.
second. We will cut it, but I need to 1 second to take something to blow my nose.
No
One
worries.
second.
No worries.
Later, it's no problem for you to edit, right?
No, no, no. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Because this would not be beautiful. Mhm. I think
That
I, I
was a
think I think I gave you some material for your next show.
I was expecting worse, because you were like, "Oh, this is not going to be beautiful," and I was like, "Oh God!" And then it was actually one of the most polite. Um, yeah, that was nice. That was definitely better than how I wake up, and then I
I
think
don't
my
know.
partner.
I think that my wife, when she hears it, she's like, "Oh, you are like honking." So
Yeah, well,
maybe.
this is exactly what sometimes my partner would like shout from the bed, still sleeping, and be like, "Oh, Levy," and I'm like, "Sorry." Just 'cause it sounds like I'm, like when you have roosters in the morning,
Yeah,
waking you up.
yeah,
That's my rooster.
yeah.
Um, but oh God, okay. So we're coming back. That was the thing is, it was the oh God, what was the second thing that I wanted to tell you about? Was the addiction. So as a former substance user myself, I always have this. I don't even know if it's because of that, but I always feel like I heard this thing about, like, we're all two bad decisions away from being the person that sometimes people are looking down on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that resonates with me a lot. And I feel like from basically what you said reminded me of that. It reminded me of the fact that, it's a harsh reality, but it's kind of, I think it helps, at least it helps me a lot, and it helps me to stay grounded, and almost even be grateful for, like, the things that I've got, and the fact that I have a joke that I'm working on about how I accidentally jumped into someone's car by accident, thinking that he was a drug dealer, but he was just a guy who was dropping off, trying to pick up his kids to drop them off at school. So I almost hijacked someone's car by accident, and it's kind of like that could have got me in trouble. That there were so many things that you do, and you're like, oh, and again, that's on the grand scheme of things not that bad, but still, my point stands. That I not my point. The point that I heard about being two decisions away from being that person, it resonates with me a lot, and I'm like, yeah, it's eye opening. And
Yeah.
now, because I'm aware we're reaching the end of the conversation, as I've promised I would take an hour of your time, and we've already gone past. But I'm loving this, so I love yeah, I love it. And what I wanted to ask you was, you spoke about from like conversation, during our conversation, you talked a lot about like trauma, about the factor of like the shame, the idea of you that's one of the hardest things to deal with, when you realize that there is something, I want to say, wrong in this context, but it's not to say it's wrong. It's just the way it is. It's an illness, but the shame around it is big. You address it in a book,
Mm-hmm.
in a way,
Mm-hmm.
in some ways. I don't want to give it away
Mm-hmm.
more, but
Mm-hmm.
then based on that, and based on, again, your experiences and your understanding of yourself ever since you wrote the book,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your message to, or like, what do you expect from the English, read the English version of the book, from the readers who read the English version? What do you expect to, like, what do you hope to bring
I
from
hope
them?
that people will understand PTSD better, that people will recognize it in themselves, and even more important, recognize it in their family members and friends, and that will not be ashamed, that will not be silenced, that will talk, that will ask their loved ones or their neighbors to get help if they need. And I think that dogs is exactly this. It's talking about humanity. People told me, now Israelis are all over the world are excluded, and it's not a good time to for an Israeli author. And I'm saying that dog is really international in a sense that it's exactly the time. So many conflicts, so many wars around us, not only in Israel. And I think this is exactly the time to read about PTSD and to learn about it, because it's everywhere, and everywhere in every sense, not only in veterans, but as we said before, about sexual assault, about car accidents, about bullying in schools, about everywhere. So this is the time to read a book like Dog, and to understand mental illness, and to feel compassion for our loved ones and for strangers also. So it was amazing talking with you too, Levy. People, I don't know if they know, but you have like an amazing mustache, like
Thank you.
very like a Turkish mustache. With a character, a mustache with a character.
Thank you. And I that's because I can't grow a beard.
Oh, really? So you have a
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah.
So it was really nice speaking with you, and I'm looking forward to connect in the future and to change ideas, and maybe we will meet in my next book also.
I would, you know what, I would love to. And one quick last
Of course,
question
of
before
course.
we wrap it up. Although you kind of addressed it. I feel like you throughout the episode you read my mind quite a bit because you were going through things that I'm
I
going to ask him
did. I
this,
did, Levy. I
and
read your
then
mind.
well done. Well, I think if you could read the mind of the people who choose the numbers at the for the lottery tickets, I'd love to hear from
Yeah.
you. Um, but basically, yeah, you kind of addressed it, but I want to ask one last time to make sure we got it. What's next for you? Obviously, we talked about the dog being adapted into a movie, but that's a long time. That's a very long
Hmm.
time thing.
Yeah.
You talked about a book coming again next year
Yeah.
in
The
June,
book,
July.
yeah, June or July. My next book is called The Girl Who Rode the White Lion, which is a nice name. It's about it's a very complicated, not very complicated, but like more of a complicated historical romance about the Holocaust. Okay, it was the core of the idea arrived from true events of the Haltov family, which was a circus family in Germany, which saved Jews during the Holocaust when they hide them in their circus.
What?
And when I learned about it, I blew up in my mind. Like it was like, wow, what an amazing story. And then I had an idea about a story which starts in two time zone. One is in Crystal Night in Germany, in Darmstadt, Germany, and the other time zone is in the US in the 50s, late 50s, where a veterinarian, a vet, finds a Nazi ring, an SS ring, in an autopsy he makes in a lion's stomach, like a dead lion. He find the Nazi ring. This is how the book starts. So it's like a big adventure,
Wow.
more of like an Hollywood adventure, which I'm very excited about this book. So basically, this is like I feel I have like a lot of things happening, and I hope it will go on the best side. I can only hope so.
Well, I hope so too because I've never heard this story before,
Thank
and
you.
I yeah, I'm actually now you made me quite like looking forward to reading it and to learning more about it. Sounds amazing, and I love I love talking to creative people, and I feel like you're from listening to you, your mind goes some places that sound although again it's obviously filled with trauma and but it goes to some beautiful places and I
Thank
think
you.
yeah and well thank you for doing this, thank you for thank you for taking the time to do the
Sure,
podcast, and thank
sure.
you
Thank
for
you.
even for writing and even for not even for but for writing for you know speaking about your own life and speaking about like your own journey and helping others as well, because I feel like we've lost so many people um too early because of this sort of because they didn't know what to do or like
Hmm.
how to help themselves basically. And now I feel like thanks to people like you,
And
it
to
looks like
people
we
like
have a
you.
thank you. But it looks
Yeah.
like we have a chance. We have a chance to, and also to show that you can make it work out. You
Yes.
can
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
again. You said you used the I think you said that it was like a Hebrew proverb about like sometimes bad things lead to are happening for good things to happen or something like that?
Yeah, they say from bitter comes the sweet. This is how it's in Hebrew. Mimar yotze matok in Hebrew. From bitter comes out the sweet. So yes, so this is a saying in Hebrew that beautiful things can happen from the best things. Yeah.
You see, so that then you're kind of like, you know, you're almost like you're a product of that, and you know it show, and that's amazing. I think that's beautiful, and yeah, once again, I appreciate you
I
so much,
appreciate
and I hope
you.
we stay in touch.
Yeah.
And for
You
now,
take
all
care.
the best, brother. Take
Thank
care.
you, my friend. You take care.
So that was good, right? What do you think? Come on. Was it good? Was it good? Good? Was it what you hoped for? Was it better? I'm I'm so sure it wasn't worse. You know, because it must be at least either what you expected for or better. And you know, after listening to this, you know, after listening to the conversation that I had with Ishi, I don't think there is a better outro than to, you know, just simply say, check out Ishi's work. Um, Also, you know, take a moment and um, just be mindful, you know, about your own experience, about your own life, about whatever you know it's happening or has happened in your life, and how you want to approach anything else moving on. Because for me, that's it for this week. And from me, Pickle and Sarma, until next week, stay skillful, look after yourselves. God bless. Goodbye.